The first thing I want to the first thing I want to dive into today is a quick story that I will never forget. Right, I'll never forget when I was just starting my own meditation practice. This was back in 2011, and at that time, I was really struggling with a lot of my own mental health issues. I was living on the Gold Coast, and so I was living at the beach, and I had recently finished school, but I had no direction in where I wanted to go with my life. I didn't really know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to be doing, so I was feeling quite lost. And that's when I also started to have a lot of mental health issues. My mind was always racing. I was overthinking things, and it became clear to me that I needed to change something about my mindset. I needed to do something to work on my mental health because I realized if I keep going the way that I'm going, feeling lost inside, feeling confused, feeling hopeless, um, feeling like I really didn't know who I actually was, if I kept going like that, it just wasn't going to be a good life. And I knew that. And that's really what inspired me to change, or to at least start to seek change, start to look for options to change. And this is when I stumbled upon meditation. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, is meditation and silent meditation, because that's what I found and that's what changed my life forever. I started meditating for 10 minutes a day. That was it. I read a blog post one day that basically said if you meditate for 10 minutes a day in silence, in 5 years or so, you will be a superhuman. That's what it said. It didn't tell me that if I start meditating, I'll be better in a week, or I'll be better in a month, or even I'll be better in a year. It said if you start meditating now, you will be a superhuman in 5 years. And I was about 17 years old at that point in time. And that sounded pretty good to me. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to be 22 and I'll be a superhuman. And I was like, that sounds pretty good. So I started meditating, and I started meditating every single day, right? And the real reason why I did this is because I didn't want to go down this traditional path of getting on medication, or going to the doctors or the psychiatrist or the psychologist to tell me what was wrong with me. I didn't want to find external sources to solve my problems. I didn't want to be a victim to the experience that I was having. I didn't want to go searching outside myself for a solution to my inner problems. I wanted to find an internal solution to my internal problem, because that's what made sense for me. And that's why I started meditating 10 minutes a day. For a couple of years straight, I just was hardcore on the meditation. And it was always 10 minutes a day. And it was always first thing in the morning. And I was fortunate that I was living at the Gold Coast. I lived quite close to the beach at that time. So I would always do it outside as well. I would wake up, I would go to the beach, and I would sit down and meditate. That was my thing. So I was meditating in nature, and that was a very spiritual time for me, and it was a big time of awakening. That was when I really started to wake up to myself and start to think differently, start to get control of my thoughts, and realize that I could control my thoughts in the first place. Because before I started, I found that very hard, right? And I still had some challenges as I started to progress through the meditation practice. I still uh, struggle with my thoughts. I struggled with like an internal conflict. So even when I was meditating, what happened is I started to develop a stronger intuition. I started to develop a stronger self awareness, and it became clearer and clearer to me the path that I wanted to go with my life, the things that I wanted to do with my life. And at the same time, I was still a young man, and I was still surrounded by certain social environments, and I was still surrounded by drugs and alcohol and parties and all this kind of stuff. So there was one part of me that was becoming very connected to my intuition and saying, I don't want to do this, in terms of the partying and stuff like that. But then there was another part of me that was being pulled into this like peer pressure almost. It wasn't necessarily peer pressure, because I wasn't being pressured, and I'm not going to take that like victim mentality of like, oh, I was peer pressured into doing things. I kept doing those things out of my own will. I kept partying, I kept drinking and stuff like that. But internally, I had this conflict because I knew my intuition was telling me to not do that and to do something else. And internally, I was still choosing to do that, or externally, I was still choosing to do that. So it created this conflict between the life I knew I should be living internally, or my intuition was guiding me towards, and the life I was actually living externally. So there was a bit of a gap there. So even after I started meditation, there was still some challenges, right? But over time, and there was, that internal conflict caused problems in my thinking. I would, have this self-doubt, and this anxiety was still there a little bit. I would have fluctuations. Sometimes I'd be really frustrated or angry with myself. And even in the meditation, sometimes I would, still have to work with my own thoughts. And I was still in those early days, still learning how to really grasp my thoughts and control my thoughts and control myself. Right. So yeah, it wasn't always just rainbows and butterflies from the very start. There were still challenges, but over time, I overcame those challenges. I started to listen more to my intuition, and I started to actually take action in my life that was aligned with my intuition. And that's when things started to really change, and I started to really transform into this superhuman that I was promised, right? And so around my mid-20s, early to mid-20s, I started to really get clear on who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I kept meditating, and over the years, I ended up dropping off all of these other bad habits that weren't really serving me, and that's what really was enabling me to connect deeply to my intuition and what I really wanted to do with my life. And now, as I live in alignment with myself, I don't really struggle with negative thoughts anymore. I don't really struggle with overthinking, self-doubt. Like, it creeps in every now and then, but it's not a worry at all. It's not something that has a lot of weight to it, right? And so this is why I wanted to talk about silent meditation today, because I really believe that it's a practice that you can develop for life. And if you develop this practice for life, you can leave this old narrative of, like, I need someone to fix me, or I need help, or I need to go to the doctors to fix me, or the psychologist to tell me what's wrong with me, or the psychiatrist to give me some medication or some plan to fix my mind. Like, I never did any of that, and I don't think it's necessary if you take this new way, or this more conscious way of self-reflection, silent meditation, and connecting to your inner self. I really believe that we have so much power internally, and we can solve all of our own problems. If we have internal problems, we can solve them with internal solutions. And now, it's not to say that we don't need our guides and our mentors and our teachers to help us along the way. Like, I read that blog post that acted as an educational piece, or a tool, or a bit of guidance for me that helped me on my path. So, not denouncing all helping, but just starting to see things differently, and realizing that we have our own inner power. Because when we connect with that inner power, that's what's going to lead us on the way, right? Lead us on this more conscious way. And it's really a path of self-responsibility, self-discipline, self-commitment, right? And when we commit to our inner self, that's when we can find inner freedom. Like I was saying, in the early parts of my story, I wasn't fully committed to my inner self, or my intuition, right? I could hear it, and it was getting louder, and it was getting louder, and it was getting louder, but I wasn't fully committed to it. I wasn't taking full responsibility for myself, and I wasn't being disciplined in alignment with my intuition. I was still doing things that I actually knew that I shouldn't be doing. And it was a journey of overcoming that other self, right? The other self that's easily influenced by others, who's looking for external validation, and looking to fit in, right? I realized that it's not my path to fit in, right? Or at least not to those circles. And so I was able to listen to the intuition, start following the intuition, and really take responsibility for my own life, and commit to the life that I knew in my heart and my intuition that I really wanted to live. And I was able to do all of that because I learned how to practice silent meditation, and I learned how to sit in silence with myself and listen to myself. And this brings me to what I want to talk about today, which is the 4 pillars of silent meditation that I essentially, I don't know if I would say developed, but started to acknowledge. There's really 4 pillars that I've really acknowledged have been helpful through my meditation practice. Over the years, I've been meditating. This is, the story I was just telling was from 2011, right? 2011, like nearly 15 years ago, 14 years ago, right? Over those 14 years, I've really become acutely aware of these 4 pillars, and they're essentially sensory pillars. So, when you're in a silent meditation, what you're doing is you're connecting with your senses. And there's 4 senses in particular that I found very helpful from meditation. And I'm going to go through them now so that you have a little bit more understanding of how to meditate, or what to look for when you're in meditation, or what to aim for when you're in meditation. Because I know sometimes when we sit down for meditation, we're a little bit like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Like, what's this all about? Or am I doing it right? And so over the last decade or so, I have really tuned into these 4 things, right? So one is very simply the breath. Now, you've probably heard about this before. Your breathing is a very powerful anchor point. That's the way I see it. It's like an anchor point into the present moment. So when you connect with your breath through meditation, you're anchoring yourself in the present moment. You become aware of the inhale and you become aware of the exhale. And if you can focus your attention on the inhale and the exhale, it's going to teach you a lot, right? I won't go into it too much right now because I'll go through these other 4 pillars, and then I'll come back to the breath and we can unpack that a little bit. But the first pillar is the breath. The second pillar is listening. So our sense of hearing, our sense of listening to the world. Now we will listen to sounds happening in the world. For example, I was listening to waves crashing a lot. I was listening to dogs barking when I first started, right when I was on the beach. I was listening to people talking. I was listening to planes going over, cars starting to go past, right? The wind through the trees, all sorts of different things that I could hear. And that was a way that I could also become present, because when you hear, you are here. When you hear, you are here. So listening is a very powerful tool, or a very powerful sense that we can start to tune into. And a funny thing happens as well when you're in meditation. You listen to the outside world, but you also develop a listening to your own inner world, right? Like I was saying, you learn to listen to your intuition. You start to listen to your thoughts. You start to listen to your feelings and what they're trying to tell you or what they're trying to teach you. So listening can be an external thing, but it can also be an internal thing. So we've got breathing, we've got listening. Feeling is the third pillar. Feeling. So, for example, some days when I was meditating on the beach, I would feel the sun on my skin and I'd be like, wow, this is hot. Sometimes there would be no sun and it would be cold, right? Sometimes it would be really windy. Sometimes ants would crawl on me and I would feel those sensations on my body. Now, that was the external impacts of feeling. The internal feeling was like my emotions, what I was feeling. Maybe I had a memory that came up that triggered some shame, or maybe there was a memory that triggered guilt, or maybe there was a memory that triggered anger. What you're going to find when you are in meditation is once you start to slow down the conscious mind, the thinking mind, you'll start to process subconscious stuff. So you'll have these random thoughts coming up from your past. And, I believe that it's really an opportunity for you to process those things. When the memories come up from the past, you start thinking about maybe something happened with your parents or friends or this or that. When you're present to that and you allow yourself to just feel whatever it needs to be felt, that's a very powerful process. I always look back in hindsight. I tell my clients now, when I first started meditating, I think that I was processing a lot of my trauma from the past unknowingly. I didn't even know that was what was happening. It's only now in hindsight that I can look back and I can go, oh, wow, I was actually processing a lot of trauma just by sitting there, being present with my feelings and my memories and my emotions and everything like that. So that's the third pillar, it's feeling. So we're breathing, we're listening, we're feeling. And then the fourth pillar is a little bit different. It's the sense of imagination. Now, people say a lot of people think that you shouldn't be thinking in your meditation. I should be not thinking. Oh, if I'm thinking, it means I'm doing it wrong, right? That's not true. You're always going to think. And yeah, we want to be present, right? That's what these three first pillars are for. Present with our breathing, present with listening, present with feeling. Those three pillars help us connect with presence, right? Which is great. Awesome. But there's a fourth pillar, which is imagination. And this has served me well in my meditation practice, right? This is just my philosophy. These are my pillars. I've used my imagination a lot in meditation to visualize a future that I wanted for myself, to visualize, you know, for example, the car that I have now, right? Or the wife that I have. Like, I actually visualized my wife before I met her. I always visualized in my mind I was going to be with like a petite little blonde girl, right? And that's what I have as my wife now, Missy. If you follow me on Instagram, you might see some stories. Like, my wife Missy she's quite like small and petite and blonde hair. Well, she's got like brunette hair right now, but when we met, she had blonde hair, and I think, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole another can of worms. But the point is, I use my imagination. I use my visualization to imagine these things. I got a black Tesla Model 3. I always thought about that when I was younger, right? I was like, that's a car that I want. That'd be sick to have that car, right? Growing my business to where it is now. That's another thing. I live at the beach still. Like, I lived at the beach back then. I live at the beach now. It's always something that I've imagined for myself. I always want to live at the beach, right? So the sense of imagination, I think, is really powerful, right? And we're not necessarily trying to stop all of our thinking. What's better is to develop a healthy relationship with your thinking. So a lot of people are in resistance to a lot of their thoughts. They think that their thoughts are bad, or they're wrong, or they start to push against it. This is, I shouldn't be thinking, or I shouldn't be thinking this. My invitation for you is to actually allow yourself to imagine a positive future. Allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to use your imagination constructively, because sometimes you'll be in meditation and that's just what will happen. You'll start wandering off into thoughts about what you want to do for the day, or what you want to do for the month, or what you want to do for the year, or goals you want to work towards. And I think that's fine. I think that's a great, a great thing to be able to do in your meditation, is to also practice imagination. But you can see this is the fourth pillar, right? So the first three pillars, I believe, are the most important for connecting with presence. When you're in imagination, you're usually thinking about the future, or you're dreaming about something, right? Now, it's not to say that that's bad. It's just that it's different to the other ones, right? Where the other three are really connecting in with present awareness. We're breathing, we're listening, we're feeling. The fourth pillar is imagination, which is a beautiful thing that we have. Nothing to be ashamed of. It's good to dream. It's good to be, it's good to be able to imagine a better future for yourself. I think that's great. A lot of people have this negative connotation with desire, right? They think that, oh, I shouldn't be desiring things. I shouldn't be wanting things. Everything that is in our world is born from desire, right? So the Buddha said that desire is the root of all suffering. But also everything that's created in the world is created through desire. You have to have a desire to do something. The desire creates the motivation to do something, right? So we can also be in this state of unattached desire, or detached desire, right? So it's not that the desire is necessarily bad. It's our way of thinking about the desire that's bad, right? If we're really in a high level of consciousness, which you can attain through meditation, right? Let's say you attain this high level of consciousness of like just peace, right? Everything is peaceful and calm, and I'm accepting everything, and everything just is the way that it is, right? I'm totally accepting of the world as it is. If you're in that high level of consciousness, you would also be accepting everything you'd be accepting all the good things, and you'd also be accepting all the bad things, quote unquote bad, right? Because we live in a world of relativity, so there's always going to be a positive and a negative, right? So we want to actually transcend this idea of positive and negative. So this is another powerful thing with meditation, is that you can start to connect with a sense of oneness. When you're really present, you start to connect with a big sense of oneness. When you're truly, truly present, you're able to connect with all that is in the present moment. You're able to realize that there is a direct connection between your own awareness and everything else that exists in the entire universe. That connection is found in the present moment, in the deep present. And when you find that connection, that you're also a part of all that is, you really understand that all that is includes all that is good and all that is bad together, this is when you start to develop a sense of oneness and a sense of wholeness. And when you're at that point, it's very liberating, because we're not worried about the little nuances of thought of this is good or this is bad. It just all is as it is. And it's totally okay like that. So those are the 4 pillars that I really suggest when it comes to developing a strong meditation practice. And this is why I wanted to share this with you today, because I believe that a silent meditation practice can change your life and can turn you into a superhuman, right? It takes commitment. It takes a bit of discipline. It takes you being responsible for your own life. However, if you do that, you can become very self-reliant. You are relying on yourself, right? You don't need to seek the external support systems or the traditional approaches to like fixing your problems. When you can become self-reliant, you can start to fix your own problems, and you actually can become very, very powerful being, right? And so that's what we want. And that's why I'm teaching this lesson on silent meditation now, because I believe everyone has access to that power. And you don't have to follow my 4 pillars, right? There's plenty of other ways to learn meditation. You know, you can go download apps, you can go find other teachers and stuff like that. But if you're watching this, I wanted to give you these 4 pillars, right? Breathing, listening, feeling, and using your imagination. If you do those 4 things consistently for a long period of time, I promise you, you will be able to consciously create your reality. You'll be able to create the life that you want to live, and you'll be able to do it consciously. It just takes commitment, right? Now, just to wrap up this session, right? One of the big things where people go wrong. Here's what people like the unhelpful ideas that people have about this is that, oh, I just do it for a couple of weeks and I'm going to get it. I'm going to fix my problems. People expect a quick fix. It's not. There's no quick fix, right? There really is no quick fix. And I'm not promising that at all. I'm telling you, commitment, right? Responsibility, discipline. Like that's what you need. And if you can't do that, well, then don't complain about it, because complaining is not going to help you either. Complaining is going to keep you stuck in a victim mentality, right? So you either choose to listen to your intuition and commit to yourself, your inner self, or you don't. This is a big problem that I see with so many people that I talk to, right? It's like, oh, I've tried the breath work, I've tried the meditation, I've tried this. Usually these people have also tried the psychiatrist, tried the psychologist, tried the therapist, tried the counselor, tried the naturopath, tried the nutritionist, tried the doctor, tried the supplements, tried the vitamins, tried the medicines. They've tried all of those things. They're constantly just jumping from one ship to the next, trying to look for a quick fix. And I'm telling you, that doesn't work. That will keep you in a loop of suffering. The remedy for that, or the new way and the powerful way to do it, the conscious way, is to commit to yourself, to commit to your inner self, to take responsibility for your life, and to back it up with consistency and discipline. Over time, you start to develop trust in yourself. You start to develop belief in yourself. You start to collect a stack of evidence that shows you that you can do it, that you can be calm, you can be peaceful. Like the first thing I ever manifested, I didn't manifest my wife like that, right? Like I'm talking about manifestation a little bit here as well. I didn't manifest my wife like that. I didn't manifest my car like that. The first thing that I manifested was peace and calm internally. I went from being this anxious young dude who didn't know who he was, who felt directionless and lost and confused about life and scared, to being someone who was confident and calm and clear. That was the first iteration of my manifestations. At that point, nothing externally changed. Only the internal world changed. And then from there, I stayed committed. I stayed disciplined. I stayed, I stayed in alignment with myself. And then, after a few more years, then the external manifestations started to come in. Then the wife, then the car, right? Then the business. So the point that I'm trying to make here is if you don't see results overnight, like, oh, I didn't get the thing I wanted to, and it's been a month or it's been 2 months or even 3 months, right? Keep going. Like, keep going. And don't just go forward thinking, oh, I'm just going to do this until I get better, until I fix myself. You got to commit to a whole new lifestyle. You got to commit to a whole new self. It's a whole new identity that you're committing to, right? You're working on continuous growth and development. And that takes a level of humility. You have to be humble enough to let go of the old self, because to continue growing, you need to continue shedding old layers. And so I said that I would come back to the breath, and I'm doing it now. Coming back to the breath, which is what I mentioned at the beginning. In the breath, you have the inhale and the exhale. The inhale is like you're breathing in new life, in, coming up, in. When you're born, you breathe in, and boom, you're alive. When you exhale, it's like a letting go. When you die at the end of your life, you take your last breath and you're gone. But in every single inhale and exhale, you have an opportunity to be reborn and to have to die, right? So every single breath you take is an opportunity to be reborn and to allow your old self to die, to be reborn, to allow your old self to die. And this happens continually, and you want it to happen continually. You don't ever want to become stuck in this, like, okay, here I am and this is all done now. And okay, I'm just looking for that quick fix because I just need to fix myself quickly and then I'll be better. That doesn't exist. And it's a false way to look at the world. And if you look at the world through that lens, you will never get like this fix that you're looking for. The best way to understand it is I'm going to grow and I'm going to develop and I'm going to mature. And part of that is going to mean that I need to let go of old parts of myself. And I can do that just by learning to get connected to my exhale. And you might be like, what's he talking about? Just exhale. I really believe that with the breath, we have there's a lot of little secrets to the whole universe in the breath, right? The in and the out, the positive and the negative, the life and the death, right? So if you really deeply connect with your breath, you start to develop a deep understanding of not just your breath, not just yourself, but the way the whole world works, right? There's this ebb and there's this flow, right? There's this natural rhythm to it. When you connect with that and you align yourself to that, you can really start to grow in a very positive way. And you can really start to let go of things that are keeping you stuck, right? Shed those old layers and then keep moving forward. And that is how you actually change. That is how you will get the fix that you're looking for, right? But it takes a level of humility, because sometimes it can be hard to let go of the old self because we get so like connected to it. We think, oh, this is who I am. I can't let go of who I am, because then who will I be? But that's actually where the joy is, right? And this is all stuff that you can learn through a practice of silent meditation, through getting deeply connected to yourself, your breath, your listening, your feeling, and your imagination, right? So that is this session on silent meditation. I hope you learned a few things you can take away, implement into your life. If you want more help with this, we're actually going to be running a whole month on silent meditation in my coaching community. So starting September the 1st, today is 28th of August. So we're starting on September the 1st, a silent meditation month in the Mind Launch community. And so if you want to get on board, send me a message on Instagram, and I'll send you the details with everything that you need to know about the coaching, what's involved, what you get, what it costs. If you are interested in coming into the program to get involved in the silent meditation during September, to learn a lot more about what I've just talked about and actually start to practice and implement with guidance from me, then jump into the community, send me a message on Instagram. I'll send you all the details that you can just have a read through so you can make your own informed decision. But yeah, I'm excited. Starting next week. First day of spring, September the 1st. Super excited. It's actually my birthday on 1st of September as well, so I love September. It's a great month. And yeah, I'm excited to get stuck into the silent meditation. So that's it from today. If you want to reach out, if you want to come into the community, send me a message on Instagram, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.